We have at least one.
Great.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnston.
Thank you. I wanted to mention an idea that I've been stirring around, and I'll send some.
Real seminar.
Hello? Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. I've been working on some ideas about appearance along the Greenway, and I'd like to submit the general picture that I have in mind, and then I would expect you'd be able to bring it into some sort of notion that has a little reality. This is really the product of my imagination, but I think at least some of you will find it interesting, and among that group, perhaps one or two can have a look at what I've come up with and respond for and during the process of really, which would be smartening me up, because I'd like to make it a very practical idea, but I do want to encourage it to be a part of the implementation of the master plan. So I'm not sure how that would be conducted. Perhaps I could get together with someone and for a few minutes and figure out what would be the best way to present that, perhaps collectively. I don't mind doing it one-on-one.
All right. Well, if you want to go ahead and share your ideas further.
Oh, okay. I was going to put some information together on it, but I'm sure I can. Let's try 3 minutes, because I know you have an agenda that's really full. The basic idea is the Greenway is green wherever you stop, almost at random, in front of you, behind you, you can imagine on either side. It's has a great deal of beauty, and the people that live along the property and those that plan to develop along the property will find that a common purpose with the city to make it as beautiful as possible. A large part of that will have to do with screening and buffering. For individual residences, I imagine a collaborative approach. Some of you may remember how the Historic District Commission worked. A property owner would submit a proposal, and the director of the commission would go out and chat with them, or one of the staff people would chat with them, and together figure out what would be suitable to both sides. Because when you go down the Greenway, there are two groups that have an interest in what it looks like. Those that are sitting or enjoying their backyard or looking out their kitchen window, and those that are walking along the Greenway. And those interests are not exclusive. They are, it's not a zero-sum game, I guess is the best way to put it. But both can benefit by the same kind of buffering and screening techniques. So the concept would be to present a somewhat systematic way, and I'm not sure what that would be. I know we've had tree planting programs, so maybe it could follow along those lines, where each property owner would be invited to consider how the landscaping of the rear, usually the rear of their property, could benefit them and the city. And the city and the groups or person would work together on coming up with a design. It might even reach a point where there were some actual assistance with the implementation of a landscape design. The city's landscape parameters would be quite simple. They, on the order of, we need have a screen close to the Greenway, the micro edge of the Greenway, and that's often a matter of only a few feet high, 4 or 5 feet high. And then in some cases, it requires some consideration of how screening will be added some distance away from the Greenway. It helps to go along the Greenway and have a look at these examples, but they're almost at every turn. and the solutions are almost always the same in terms of plantings, either shrubs or trees. The second part of the program is for developers when they're developing a project, devise a way by which they would be encouraged, if not required. And it's always an issue when you try to make it required, but I believe that most of the development problems along the Greenway I've seen would be, again, of mutual interest both to the developer and the city and those who advocate this kind of idea for the Greenway. I'm not sure exactly at this moment how that would best be done, but if you were using a carrot stick approach with a light emphasis on stick, you might have some sort of overlay zone or something that would have some parameters there. And the third part of the project are dealing with those more immediate problems where those property owners would be invited, or homeowners association, to consider joining in a joint project with the city.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for
You're
your
welcome.
comments there. And it is something, so much of our Greenway, 95% of our Greenway is green, but you do come across areas that are semi-industrial and residential right through the middle of an apartment complex and things like that. And it could be improved. It would give a nicer buffer. So appreciate you sharing those thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
There's no one else, no.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, Anthony Lucas and Nate McMillan. Or is that on? I need to wait for that.
No, this is the appropriate time for you to speak to, Mr. Lucas.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Good evening. I pray and hope everyone is doing well. Just to make a couple of comments on the Nate McMillan Gym at Lance Park Community Center. We shared the last time we were together the hope that Nate would bring to the community, and all the things that he's done to add to that community and throughout the country, if you will, and we just know that that would add to that community in the surrounding area. Also, excuse me, in mentioning, we're not trying to take anything from Lions Park. It would still be Lions Park, but it would be the Nate McMillan Gym at Lions Park Community Center. And in the process of that, we'll be adding 10 desktops and laptops in the community, that in the community center, that is, that the community will have access to, and give them something tangible that they can touch and reach, and a lot of the residents over there don't have computers, and so when they're able to go to the gym and fellowship, if you will, they will have that access, and their parents, if some of them wish to use that access. I think it's a great idea, and I hope that the board and the city council adopts this or accepts this and move forward on it. I really do. And also, I know I'm about to run out of time, and I normally don't get personal, but I solicit your prayers for my wife. She's in ICU at the moment. I'm in the, break area. But this was so important to my wife because Nay is giving back to the community, and she has been beside him and myself as we touch the lives of kids, diverse kids, you know, Hispanic, white, Black, Chinese, whatever race you can name, and so I don't count it robbery to step away from the ICU unit, and she's in critical shape. To get on this call, I was kind of torn about it, but I said, no, my wife, she wanted this as well as I do, because she know the impact that it could have on a kid's life. And so I won't hold you any much longer, but I solicit your prayers, and I wish you all a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Okay, good. God bless you guys.
Bless you, and we thank you for your pursuit on this matter, and we have listened to you with an open mind and an open heart on all of this, and our sincere best wishes and prayers are with your wife, and we're so sorry to hear of that situation. So thank you very much for continuing to push this forward. It's a good effort, and I hope to see a good outcome on that. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. God bless you all. Y'all take care. Be safe. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye.
Okay. Any other?
What's the next step with that?
We're gonna just, it's on our agenda tonight, Kendall. We're gonna
Okay.
discuss it. So that's the next step, and then we vote on it in
All right.
December.
Yep.
Yep. So, yep. Good question. Our next report is the Raleigh Youth Council. Carmen, I think I saw you on.
Yes, I'm here with Sydney, the chair of the Raleigh Youth Council. She's going to give you all a quick update on what they've been up to.
Great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sydney. So I'm just going to give you all a super brief update on what the Raleigh Youth Council's up to. So I think Eugene talked to you guys at the last meeting about our toy drive that we have been holding throughout the month of November. And we have some updates on where you guys can drop off toys if you would like to. So we have a box at Laurel Hills Community Center and at Roberts Park. So just a reminder that the toys must be new to be used in our toy drive. And we hold this toy drive for 2 events that we have in December. And one is called Santa's Workshop, and it's at Laurel Hills. So it's a community event. Feel free to bring your families and do some holiday crafts and just play holiday games and things like that. It's always a really fun time, and it really brings the community together. You can also drop off toys for the toy drive at this event. And our second event is called Toys from Teens at Roberts Park, and it is essentially the same event, and we give out toys at this event. So that's what we have going on in December as far as community service.
Sydney, can you give us the dates of those events, please?
I'm actually not sure the dates of those events yet.
You'll provide it. We'll get it emailed out to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
The Santa's Workshop is December the 4th. It's the first Saturday in December. And Toys from Teens is the second Saturday in December, which is December the 11th.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so sorry about that. RYC also met with the State Youth Council. So we met with other cities in North Carolina for the mini grant conference. So we were given an amount of money, and we had to decide whether like how much funding each organization would get. So they would apply to get funding for a specific event that they would like to do, and we were in charge of allocating that money. So we all thought that that was a very great experience. And as always, we're out in our parks, making sure we're doing our part. So we have another invasive species removal this weekend. And also, as always, we are recruiting new members, and teens can join by going to a meeting. And just a reminder that we have meetings every second and fourth Monday of the month.
Super. We really appreciate what you all are doing. It's a great way to kick off our meetings. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is exactly what Kendall was asking about, and that is discussion on the Lions Park gym naming request. As Mr. Lucas recounted for us, he has requested that we name the gym at Lions Park for Coach Nate McMillan, the Atlanta Hawks coach, and has a long history of coaching in both in the Raleigh community and across the country and even across the world as an Olympics coach with Coach K. So with that brief recap, does anybody have any questions to start any conversation? Van?
Needed to unmute myself. So being new to the commission and new to even the naming, a couple things I was curious about, and this is for context, so just so that I can weigh in if I need to. I'm more interested in just listening and letting people who've been on here weigh in. How often do naming requests, this is for everybody, how often do naming requests come up, number one? And number two, from you guys' experience, is this something that in past experience what are the criteria that we use maybe to make recommendations or vote on things like this? Because I just don't know.
Okay, there is a city policy. I'm going to ask Oscar if he'll go through that, but there's a specific, and it's actually been recently updated, making it a little bit more thorough and
good. And my apologies if I should have read that before this meeting or have gone to look for it. I'm so sorry.
That's what we're here to do, is learn.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no worries. I'll try my best to kind of improvise, and I can always follow up and maybe provide you a copy of the policy later for context. But basically, the policy allows for two avenues for naming. One is an honorarium, which would be this case with the Nate McMillan request, and the other one would also be for like a monetary donation or sponsorship. And so basically, when it's an honorarium. And if it's an honorarium for a regular park in our system, that request comes through the park board, and then the park board basically makes a recommendation after getting public input and makes a recommendation to council. If it's anything pertaining to like Dix Park, for example, as an honorarium, that would go through the Dix Park Leadership Committee, and then the Leadership Committee would make a recommendation to City Council. Now, if it's a naming based on a monetary donation or sponsorship, that is a negotiation that goes basically between the potential donor and City Council. And so City Council makes the ultimate decision on that as well. And as far as the frequency of these naming requests, I would say, and Scott or Ken or one of the other assistant directors in here who's been with the department for a long time, I would probably say maybe one every 2-3 years, possibly. But you know, as far as this year, this is the second one that we have received this year specifically for the park system. So it really kind of varies. And really the naming criteria is kind of based on a person who has really made a contribution, not only to maybe that specific park, but the community as a whole. You know, what have they provided the community that has made a positive difference in the lives of the youth or the adults or even the park system in general. So that's really one of the big factors that the board looks at when trying to consider the naming proposals.
Great question. I think that it's great for all of us to be sort of on the same page on that. So good. Other comments of other people who've been on before, or go ahead, Malay.
Yeah, just a follow-up question based on what Oscar said. One of the things that Oscar, you mentioned is that we would want to take public input in order to provide our recommendation. Can you talk a little bit more about the process of collecting and, you know, providing analysis for that input?
So, basically the opportunities that we had just during the public comments. So these naming requests are posted on the park board agendas. And so people have the opportunity to come during the public comment period to speak to the board to either lend for their support or advocacy against the potential naming. So if you all do get some, for example, some opposition to the potential naming, it extends the process for you all. So I think we add either 1 or 2 additional meetings onto you all's schedule to discuss the naming proposal. And so we do, I believe, put out signage at the potential sites that will be affected by this naming request. So people who actually utilize the site are aware that there's a name in the naming proposed in the queue, and they're directed to come to the park board to provide their public comments. So during this forum is when you all get that information to consider in your recommendation.
Hey, this is Kendall. Let me say this. I'm originally, Nathan Miller, number 1, is originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay, let's take the NBA out. Okay, take his money out. He's originally from that area at Lions Park. 1. Okay, am I right, Scott? Now, a lot of folks who are not from Raleigh may not understand his story. 1. 2, he went to Chowan Junior College, then he transferred to North Carolina State University. He's coached in the NBA for long, is one of the best coaches, and has turned the Atlanta Hawks around. But beyond that, is what he do when he comes back. He does more than other folks are doing in other communities. So he does a lot for that area. That area has changed too because of gentrification. So when we ask why we changing names, it's the work that he does with KSSU Institute in Raleigh North. His character, his integrity, he has done it. I don't think they're trying to name the park at Lions Park as the name. I think it's the gym and what he's trying to do. I don't think there's no question about why it should be done that way. You know, again, when you're not from Raleigh, North Carolina, you really don't understand his story.
Well, and Kendall, I think that some of these questions have been about process because I don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just good.
But when we ask about process, we'll make sure that we do it across the board for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Carol Love.
I just wanted to add a part of the process. The new thing was you have to have 100 people sign the application, and he had that 100 people on that application. So I think that was something new. And there have been no negative comments about the request to make this name. And as I said last time, Nate was one of my students. He's done extremely well as a student and as a professional. So we're not voting tonight, but I'm very positive and very pleased about the request of naming the gym for Nate McMillan.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Ken, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Beverly, I just wanted to offer some insight from a staff perspective, a little bit to what Kendall was talking about. So Nate's been an advocate for, I'll say recreation, but all of Parks and Recreation for many, many years. Kendall talked a little bit about him growing up over in Raleigh North. And he's been the epitome of a give back kind of guy. So one of the best things he and some of his, I guess his old running mates still do is we do a book bag giveaway every year at Lions Park. COVID, pre-COVID, no matter what, it needs to happen over there. So Nate is absolutely a great inspiration into that community. It's where he grew up, and he's never really given up on it. And I see Oscar nodding his head. I think Nate was one of our first face-to-face meetings during COVID. After Oscar started, he was so passionate about it. He said, I want to meet the new director. And I want to talk about what we can do over in the community. So just from a staff's perspective, I want to let you know what you heard from Mr. Lucas and what Kendall brought up. You absolutely see his action happening in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, sort of the process part of it or the person part of it? We can, any other questions on process? Let's make sure we've got that wrapped up. And then assuming that
educating me, and I'm sure when as we kind of joined the team. So appreciate this insight on the process part. I didn't have any questions on the person part of it.
Great. Thanks, Malay. Will anybody else have any words of endorsement or questions, concerns about the naming here? I think that there's a lot of support for this, and we'll be voting on it at the December 16th meeting. So, so thanks, Kendall, Dr. Love, Ken, people who really know him as the genuine person that he is, rather than just the name. Thank you for adding those remarks. It's very helpful. All right, so we've got that covered. And then now we have some presentations on the Conservation Corps and the Raleigh Relations Youth Conservation Corps, 2 different programs. So thank you.
Yes, and I believe we have Mary Owens and Joey Vosk and Sean Goff with us, who will kick off this presentation.
Super.
I'm gonna share my screen real fast, so bear with me while I get that set up.
Hey, if any of y'all want to buy a Mike Krzyzewski ticket for the Carolina game, they're going for $500,000. Let me know if you want to buy a ticket or not.
Maybe Nate will give us one.
All right, Mary, we do see your screen. I think you're ready to go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Mary Owens. I am the Resource Development Manager for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. Joseph, Sean, and I were really excited to tell you all about the 2 conservation crews that we worked with and programmed some really cool learning opportunities for them this summer. And they got to do some great work in a pretty good variety of our parks. So we're excited to tell you all about them. We'll start by going over the history of Conservation Corps type programs within the department and talk a bit about the concept of the Conservation Career Pipeline. Then Joey will talk about the Conservation Corps North Carolina, or you'll hear us refer to a lot of acronyms, CCNC, Dix Park Youth Conservation Corps program that we coordinated together. Then Sean will discuss the brand new Partnership Raleigh Conservation Corps program. And then we'll have some time for some questions about both at the end. Conservation Corps type programs are not new for our department, but the CCNC and PRYCC programs are unique in the age range that they cater to. The diagram on the right shows how each program fits into our conservation career pipeline concept. And then I'll just talk a little bit about the history and it'll kind of all come together here. Our first Conservation Corps program was the Neighborhood Ecology Corps, which started around 2014. And the goal of this program was to introduce middle school age students to ecology, science, and environmental stewardship. Then in 2016, the Volunteer Services Invasive program partnered with AmeriCorps NCCC, which is a program that's close to my heart. I was part of that program before coming and moving to Raleigh. And they focused on invasive removal and restoration with us. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, we've utilized multiple teams from another Conservation Corps type program called American Conservation Experience. And we actually are hoping to have another ACE team join us this January to do some more work with the invasive program. And then last year, time's all running together for me now. In 2020, we had our first partnership with Conservation Corps North Carolina or CCNC, for a summer crew focused on the Walnut Creek corridor and specifically for teens. Luckily, from all those past experiences, we kind of got the idea as a department to try and see if we could run an internal crew as well. And I have to give a kudos to the Invasive Program and Natural Resource Division for working on creating the PRYCC partnership, which we'll learn a little bit more about later on. And CCNC and PRYCC, a lot of acronyms, opportunities have given us the ability to create what we could consider a conservation career pipeline, starting at middle school and then having programs where middle school age, high school age, and then young adult age participants can all come to the city of Raleigh and participate in ecology-based projects, learning opportunities, and hopefully this leads them into a career in conservation. We've actually had one member start with the Neighborhood Ecology Corps in middle school. Then he was a part of the very first CCNC crew. And then he was part of the inaugural PRYCC crew this past summer and actually has been employed in at one of our natural resources sites. We're also excited to announce that 2 of our team leaders, one from each program, have been hired with natural resources as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph to talk about the Conservation Corps out at Dix Park.
Good evening, everybody. Joseph Vasco with Dix Park, current holiday light specialist with the department, but lots of fun stuff going on at Dix Park. But want to talk tonight about the exciting Dix Park Youth Conservation Corps program that occurred at Dix Park this past summer. First of all, just a little background of how the program came together. So there were several partners that came to the city of Raleigh with interest in having the Conservation Corps program at Dix Park. Partners from Conservation Legacy and CCNC, as Mary talked about that acronym earlier, really came together, came to the city, and really worked with us to make this core program possible. And then, as we all know, it takes funding to make things like this happen. So we were so happy to work through CCNC and identify funding from the Whitson Family Foundation, which came through the Triangle Community Foundation, and then also our nonprofit partners at Dix Park, the Dix Park Conservancy, came together to provide funding to have this amazing core program operate this past summer at Dix Park. And after we identified those partners in that funding, we really talked about what did we want to accomplish at Dix Park. A lot of you know the park is in development now. There's several projects going on at the park, but what could we really work with these young people on to accomplish to really kind of improve the day-to-day visitor experience at Dix Park? So we identified the goal of completing projects identified by the Dix Park Master Plan, and also to provide hands-on learning experiences for those future conservationists that we had the opportunity to get to know and work with over the summer. Mary, you can go to the next slide. So there were several partners that came together really to make the whole program happen. We talked about some of those funding partners and partners that really help us kind of establish our goals and what the summer program was going to look like. But then to really kind of operate and execute the program over the summer, there was a lot of different folks from the Raleigh Parks, Recreation and Cultural Resources Department that came together and provided educational opportunities, learning opportunities and experiences from our natural resources staff, our staff at the Dix Park team, planning staff, our invasive species program staff, and then other folks from urban forestry, cemeteries, greenways, visitations, irrigation, and construction crews. So it really had a lot of support, a lot of cross collaboration between our different areas in the department to make this really great program at Dix Park. We also had other partners from Raleigh Water, Stormwater, Pepsi Company, and NC State Landscape Architecture come out and do different educational programs with the youth that were a part of the program. And like I said, provide those learning opportunities. Mary, you can go to the next slide. Go back one, Mary. There you go. One of the things we really wanted to focus on from a recruitment standpoint was really looking at geographic diversity. So we really wanted to think about how we could recruit youth from all over, not only Raleigh, but all over Wake County and the Triangle area to be a part of this crew at Dix Park and have these learning opportunities, and also just to be a part of the experience as Dix Park kind of transitions through the development that's happening now. So the core group was made up of 2 crew leaders, and those crew leaders stayed on the entire 8 weeks of the program. There were 12 crew members. There were two 4-week programs with 6 members each. They came from various zip codes. Those crew members were 15 to 18 years old, and you can see that 50% of those crew members were female. So we were so proud that we were able to accomplish that geographic diversity and really recruit just a variety of wonderful youth that were a part of our program. And as you can imagine, those youth really accomplished a lot of awesome projects around Dix Park. And we were so thankful to Mary Owens and her team for really being instrumental in making sure those projects occurred. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Mary to talk about those projects.
Thanks, Joey. Yeah, so I'm really excited to tell you all about all the different types of projects that this program and these crews accomplished for us this summer. Don't worry, I'm not going to read every number on the slide, but just know that they did quite a bit for us. They provided 2,560 maintenance hours to Dix Park, and that was just within their 8 weeks of being there. And we accomplished a wide variety of projects that you'll see a little bit more of during those times, and really tried to give them kind of like a holistic look at conservation, park maintenance, landscaping, just a pretty good set, even a little construction, actually just really good skills that they could take away from the program. Their priority project was creating a 1/4 mile of trail through the Pine Grove at Dix Park. And if you haven't been out there to see it yet, I highly suggest you guys visit it if you can. It's located directly behind Flowers Cottage. If you look off the deck, you'll see a bridge that heads right into the woods. And they spent a lot of time in there. They removed invasive plants. They built the trail, which you can see in the picture here. And it's just a beautiful walk through a pine grove in the middle of the city. So I highly suggest you check it out. Another big number on there is they removed 7 tons of invasive plants and did quite a few other projects that I'm about to show you as well. Like I said, we tried to give them quite a variety. So they learned about seeding and sodding, astroturf. They helped our maintenance guys. Well, I don't know if you've ever been out there and seen them mowing the big field, but it takes quite a while. So this crew stepped up and helped do some of the weed whacking around there to help the guys in the mowers stay in the mower and keep everything rolling. They had a lot of fun with that one. Some of the other stuff they've done is they actually got to learn about the cemetery on site and the historic cemetery and the history around it. And they helped us raise some of the markers that were in the ground. We've also, a big project for them that they were very, very proud of are the Hammock Groves. So if you've been out to Dix Park and sat at any of the Hammock Groves near the sunflower field or out at the big field, that was done by these crews here. And you can see 2 of the girls in the top right corner there doing a little hands-on construction and building those hammock groves for us. I think that's their favorite one because they got the opportunity to swing in the hammocks afterwards when they took their break. And then some of the other things they did was install some park furniture to get Dix Park, starting it. We were calling it phase now, kind of, and getting it open so people can come out and enjoy it. And they've done some other things as well. And the big one was the sunflowers, of course, were blooming right when they were there. So they got to learn all about biofuel and then taught the public at the sunflower field as ambassadors. On top of all of the hands-on work experience they got, we also programmed educational opportunities. And you can see this is just a small list of all of them. But some of my favorite were, we had a student who was very interested in becoming a wildland firefighter. So we were able to pull in some expertise from our Natural Resources Division to come in and talk about prescribed fire and the benefits of it. And they actually got to see some really cool endangered plants that actually thrive with fire. So that was a very cool opportunity for them, and they loved it. The other one, they learned about plant ID, birding, urban forestry, tree climbing and knots, another big hit. They all enjoyed that one, and it was a challenge by choice, and that's as high as they went right there, just for safety reasons, but they all had a lot of fun with it. And really loved learning from our urban forestry crew about what they do. Just some of the other ones, we had some other departments come in and talk. So Raleigh Water came out and they talked about biofuel. They also talked about stormwater and water quality. So we really tried to give them a wide variety of topics that are all related to conservation and stewardship. For our more IT kids, we did do a big GIS mapping project with them as well, and they loved it. And we'll finish up here talking about the CCNC by showing you just a few photos from the term. It's a mixture of educational opportunities and work opportunities in these photos. So I love that they're smiling in all of them, and I had a lot of fun working with them. So thank you for letting us come and tell you about all the great work our CCNC crew did here. And with that, I will turn it over to Sean to tell you about all the fun stuff that the PRYCC crew did.
All right. Appreciate it, Mary. And I want to take a quick minute to thank all of you two, the board members, especially for giving us a chance to tell you about these programs. Just a warning, there's going to be a lot of overlap because what Mary just covered in her Conservation Corps program is very similar to what we did. The biggest difference is this was our internal program that we actually developed after we had an experience with CCNC last year. We loved it. We got so much done that we decided, hey, maybe we can do this ourselves and give us a little bit more control over scheduling, logistics, the types of projects we do, hiring, for example. So we decided that we were going to do it. And we launched the Partnership Raleigh Youth Conservation Corps, the PRYCC, again, more acronyms. The idea was to develop not only our own Youth Conservation Corps and actually do it for about half the cost, but the specific goal was to engage young adults from underrepresented groups. So when I say underrepresented groups, I mean people in natural resource fields or in conservation type careers who typically don't get that kind of exposure. You know, I think for a long time, these kind of fields have been predominantly white and predominantly male. But that could be said about a lot of different careers. So the idea that we wanted to intentionally increase the diversity by targeting young adults and advertising these jobs to them specifically was a big motivating factor and one of our big goals for launching this program. Another major goal was to create sort of a career pipeline for young adults to move through college and then into a career and hopefully keep them maybe in some kind of conservation field, natural resource management type field. Including maybe even get a couple of them to come back to work with us at Raleigh Parks. Next slide, please, Mary. Thank you. So how did we go from an idea to making this a reality? How did we go about developing the logistics and the planning? So the first step we thought that was really important was creating a set of inclusive job descriptions, not only for the crew leaders, but the crew members. We worked with different members of our DEI committees, our diversity, equity, inclusion committees, to craft language that was not exclusive in any way, that wasn't too ambiguous or wasn't too, we wanted to make sure the tone invited as many people to apply as possible without somehow, you know, unintentionally maybe turning them away or turning them off somehow. We did targeted advertising and recruitment. So we not only advertise these positions on the typical Raleigh platforms and with Partnership Raleigh, but we went through other platforms too that are specifically designed to market for people of color, underrepresented groups, underserved groups. One of those was Outdoor Afro. Another one was Latino Outdoors. We use the Nextdoor social media platform, which some of you may be familiar with, where we could actually advertise to specific neighborhoods and communities. So we were making sure to get these advertisements in front of as many eyeballs as we could, especially for some of those groups who may not get that sort of notification or opportunity regularly. Next step was creating a schedule. You know, where were they going to work? How were they going to work? We wanted to bring in some speakers and guest speakers to give them different exposures to different types of natural resource management issues, techniques, different fields of study and career fields. And finally, we wanted to do some professional development too, to get them ready for whatever their next step was going to be. All right. Thanks, Mary. All right. So we've got an idea. We've got everything kind of written up. Now, how are we going to pay for it? Fortunately, we had a lot of help and a lot of people step up to the bat and really helped us pull this together in a relatively short amount of time. So we landed 2 crew leaders. They were on with us for 9 weeks. They worked about 36 hours a week. Our friends in the Raleigh Parks Division stepped up big time. Huge thank you to them for providing funding for the crew leader salaries. We had the Resources Division from Raleigh Parks provide funding for equipment, tools, and different PPE, personal protective equipment. And we hired our crew leaders through the Internship Committee. Next was getting our crew members, the rest of our crew built out. They were with us for 7 weeks. They also worked 36 hours a week. That's supposed to say hours, not hours. So Partnership Raleigh program, which is in the Department of Housing and Neighborhoods, was a huge partner. And I noticed that Kathy Ector, who was actually our main point of contact with Partnership Raleigh in the Housing and Neighborhoods Department, was on the meeting too. So I wanted to say a special thank you to her, especially because without them, we definitely couldn't have pulled this off. And I believe the Partnership Raleigh program, they received their funding through the City of Oaks Foundation that provided grants that they had received from Bank of America and Verizon. So as you can see, it was a lot of strings we had to attach in order to get this stuff paid for. But thankfully, we had such good partners, we were able to get it done. All right, so now we've got the crew hired. We want to take a look and see how we did in terms of meeting our original goals and objectives of increasing that sort of diversity. And luckily, I think we did pretty good, especially for our first year. We ended up with 50% female and 50% people of color, which I thought was pretty good ratios. We ended up with ages from 17 to 25. I think we may target a little bit younger next year, maybe 16 to 18 or 19 for the crew, and maybe 19 to 21-ish for the crew leaders. Just because we want to make sure we're getting them exposure to these kind of career fields as early as possible, and maybe hopefully get them hooked so that they can continue their way through. And I think this next bullet's really neat, and Mary touched on this, the idea of creating, the Neighborhood Ecology Corps, the NEC, being sort of a middle school targeted program. And then as they age out of that, making sure we have at least 1 or 2 other programs similar that they can go into and continue down that career path. And in this first year in our PRYCC program, we did have one young man, Dominic, who was awesome. He was in NEC a few years back. He was in the CCNC program last summer, and he joined us this year and now works at Walnut Creek Wetland Center. We also had one Navy veteran, and that was our 25-year-old. Her name was Lydia. She actually now works at Wilkerson Nature Preserve. But I thought she was a neat story too, because when we interviewed her, she was really concerned about her experience or lack thereof with some of the stuff we were asking for in the job description. And it was because she had been serving for so long, she didn't have a chance to really expand her job history and get these experiences. So we loved her attitude. We decided we wanted to hire her, and we thought that it was really important, especially for veterans too, who are trying to integrate back into the workforce, that they get that sort of opportunity to build that experience. So we are really happy with the composition of our group. As you can see on the graph on the right, there is a distribution of zip codes. Bar graphs with all ones, I think, are pretty funny, but you can tell we had a pretty good spread, including some from outside of Raleigh. And I think we will maybe try to keep that a little bit more local next year, depending on how we can go about doing that. But we were thrilled to get who we got this year, especially in our first time around. All right, so what did we actually get done? We completed 25 projects roughly across seven different Raleigh Park sites. There were multiple projects at different sites. A lot of them focused on invasive species removal, which I know the kids were just sick of at the end of the summer. But we got to expose them to other management topics too, like trail building and maintenance. They got to learn a little bit about biological surveying and monitoring. They learned about how to evaluate and improve habitat for wildlife. They did a little facility maintenance. We had them work on environmental education programming and developing a program of their own. And then I think this last bullet is really neat facet. For the last week of the summer, we had all the crew members and crew leaders, design and then deliver a volunteer project. So not only did they have to go through the planning and development of the project itself, but then they had to step in a leadership role. And we thought that was a really good thing to give them sort of as their going away gift, wherever they're going on their next step, being able to say, I've done this before, I've been in a leadership role. And, everything was really good. Everything went well, was positive, and we got a lot done this summer. All right. Yeah, just to show you that it wasn't all work and toil, we, a lot of sweat, thankfully no blood, no tears, a couple of unfortunate run-ins with yellow jackets, but it was really fun to watch these, I keep calling them kids, but these young adults come out of their shell over the summer. In the first week, everybody was kind of standoffish. They kind of kept to themselves, maybe one or two paired off. But by the end of the summer, I think we had a really cohesive group. They enjoyed being around each other, working with each other. They're always laughing and smiling, as you can see in a lot of these pictures. And you can go to the next one. Yeah. To make sure they had a good time, we scheduled some fun activities as well, like kayaking at Lake Johnson. They did mountain biking at Forest Ridge. You could see one up there in the top right doing cartwheels. She's probably just happy that they weren't cutting invasives that day. We did a little bit of disc golf too. So we made sure we had a good time and it wasn't all just work and grind for these kids. Go ahead. All right. Another facet very similar to what Mary covered in the CCNC portion. We wanted to include educational and professional development opportunities so that it was not just them benefiting us through their labor, but we were giving them something back. We did professional development that was delivered through Raleigh Parks in partnership Raleigh. That included soft skills training, like how to build a resume and how to prepare for a job interview, how to expand your professional network, and a lot more. Something so that we made sure they were prepared for whether it was going into their first year of college, late college, or maybe even going into their first career. And we ended up with a total of 24 guest speakers over the summer from all sorts of agencies like Wildlife Resources, Forest Service, state parks, the Museum of Natural Science. We had a lot of our own internal people who had specific areas of expertise come and talk to them. So 24 guest speakers over a 9-week period, it's a little better than 2.5 speakers per week. That's pretty impressive. And I hope that we expose them to a lot of different ideas, a lot of different facets of ecology, natural resources, and hopefully they left with something that they could take with them. A lot of these guest speakers talked about how they got to where they were. And I thought that was really important so they could understand, if that's something they're interested in, sort of that blueprint, a pathway. This is how you can do that. And that might not be information that everybody has access to. So we were happy to provide that for them. Here are some photos of them doing the professional development stuff. They're learning about box turtles and reptiles, amphibians. I think that's salamanders there in the middle. They're learning about bats on the right. You can go ahead to the next one. But not all of the development stuff was passive or observational. They did a lot of hands-on stuff too, where they did some dendrology, some bird watching. And on the right, again, with the urban forestry crew came out and taught them how to do tree climbing, which I think they all had a really good time with. So it scared me to death. I would never have gotten up as high as they were, but they were, they're young, they're fearless, so they did really good with it. All right, I want to offer a sincere and very robust thank you to our partners, because without them, again, we couldn't have put this together at all. We couldn't have done it in a short period of time, and it definitely wouldn't have been a success without them. So again, the Raleigh Department of Housing and Neighborhoods and the Partnership Raleigh program specifically were huge. The City of Oaks Foundation and the financial support they provided with funds from Bank of America and Verizon. Our own internal partners, I don't know if some others are getting cut off there, but our internship program, the natural resources section, which is what I'm in, our parks division, greenways, urban forestry. I mean, we had so much help. I'm probably leaving people out, but it was a huge success. The kids, I hope, left with something very positive, and we're really looking forward to offering this again next summer. Learn from some of the things that we learned this summer that we can improve on. Make the program bigger and better, and support more inclusion and diversity, and we'll see where it takes us. So stay tuned, because we'll be bringing you guys more updates at some point. All right, so I guess I don't know if we're going to do questions now. Maybe somebody can tell me if that's now or not.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you all so much. That was a fabulous presentation, and it certainly raises some interesting questions in my mind, but I want to hear from other board members. Malay, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Sean. Sean, do you know if any of your crew is going to come back next year, or if they've shown interest in coming back next year? Is that an option for them?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. There are some who are still going to be in that sort of targeted age range that will come back, hopefully, or have at least expressed to us that they will. But there are some who are exploring other opportunities too, and hopefully what we gave them is helping them do that. So I know I've spoken to at least 3 who hope to come back. We'll see, maybe if we can get a few more back.
Cool.
Great.
Great program.
Yeah. I can't see the whole
Mary,
group.
can we take down the presentation? There we go. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other questions from board members? Well, I have one. I really appreciated, I guess, the transparency of seeing the zip code distribution from both projects. And I have to say, I was a little bit surprised the geographical distribution, and would hopefully, I guess one of the plus deltas you would do here would be to figure out how we can focus on more Raleigh youth for both projects. I assume that's something, it's not anything too brilliant, it's just pretty obvious, but I think that would be a concern that I would have.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. And that's something that we actually talked about after the program was completed, and we did sort of our after action review, and setting up planning for next year. But we had, with the pandemic and everything, the hiring process was a little disjunct going on. So at the end, we were thrilled to get who we got. And a lot of them, or at least several of them who lived outside of Raleigh, actually went to school in Raleigh. I don't know whether it was through private, or a lot of them went to NC State too, or at least 2 or 3 of them did. So while their addresses were from out of town, they were still sort of Raleigh local at the time.
That's helpful.
But yes, ma'am, we will be a little bit more concerted in that sort of effort next time around.
And John, if I could add, in addition to that, our partnership Raleigh funds are for students who live or go to school here in Raleigh. But you're absolutely right, Ms. Clark. We really want to make more of a focus on recruiting and hiring students who live here in Raleigh for those funds.
Malay, is your hand still up for a new question? No, you took it down. Okay. Anybody else have questions or concerns or kudos? I mean, really the amount of work that you all got done. And to be honest, getting a lot of work done from volunteers and from young people who are not in a specific job for a long period of time can be challenging. So that really, my hat's off to you all for that work, and we appreciate it because it's made a big difference. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. And for those of you new on the board, you will see and hear Mary Owens' name many times because she wears many hats. When she introduced herself, it was not with the title that I would have. She coordinates volunteers. She'll coordinate us when we do work service, and coordinating these projects is a big part of it. But also thanks to Sean, thanks to Joey, it clearly was a team effort here.
Yeah, thank you all. Great program and great progress, and looking forward to next year as well.
All right, now next thing is pre-development assessment plans on Full Road and Watkins Road.
Yes, and we have Emma Lyles with Park Development and Communications with us, is going to go over these 2 potential park sites.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to share my screen, so please let me know if you guys have any issues seeing it. All right.
You're up, Emma.
Cool. So I do want to give a quick shout out before I dive deep into this presentation. These are collaborative reports put together by myself and Sean Goff, who you just saw presenting, and Doug Porter. So we have our natural resources, cultural resources, and our park development team all working to bring you these plans. So the pre-development assessment plans, from now on, I'm going to refer to them as PDAPs. They include a context and site analysis, as well as data acquired by the State Historic Preservation Office and by the NC Heritage Program. We do multiple site visits. Our team, we document site opportunities and constraints. We look at a natural and cultural resource inventory of the site. And then the report wraps up with site suitability diagrams, as well as interim management recommendations. These PDAPs are done on our undeveloped park properties. We've already brought a few of them to y'all before. This is our next round. I'll be back next month also. Here quick is a timeline of how we develop a PDAP, what we do before we bring it to y'all, and how we will continue to utilize the PDAPs after you see them tonight. These are the preliminary step after we have acquired a property and before we have master planned the property. So this is just that interim management, first looks, getting eyes on the ground to see what's going on out there. Here's everything that's included in a PDAP. Won't go into all of these different maps tonight, but just kind of wanted to see you, show you guys if you want to look into the documents themselves, you'll get to see all of these items. First up tonight, I'm going to talk to you guys about our Pool Road property. The Pool Road property is located towards the eastern boundary of our ETJ, near the Neuse River. It's right down the street from the Pool Road canoe launch. There are definitely community associations and homeowner associations nearby. There are no schools nearby, but all of these things should be considered when we move forward with master planning the site. We also need to looking at the different parks that are in the area and seeing how this park could complement those. Definitely a lot of river-oriented parks nearby, and including also some athletic complexes and historic parks too, including the County Historic Park, that Historic Oakview. There are no planned greenway corridors or greenway trails through this site. It kind of sits right between all three of our trails, but nothing planned within the site itself. Here's an aerial of the site. This is technically 2 parcels, but they are contiguous. They only total up to about 5.5 acres, so it's a very small site. The site is mostly forested, as you can see in this aerial, and I'll show you in some pictures too. There are a few open fields near towards Pool Road. There's also a small creek that runs through the site. I think it was mostly dry when we were out there. There's also several very beautiful boulders. You don't get to see that at every site. Very nice. Some special considerations to keep in mind with this specific site. At the time that this report was produced, fall 2021, the Pool Road Widening project, which is a $14.8 million project by the city of Raleigh, is currently in the construction phase. Part of this project will be a dry retention pond that's going to be built on this site as part of the road construction project. This image kind of shows not just the widening itself, but this kind of blob right here is going to be that pond on the property. Another thing to keep in mind too with this road widening project is it does include a 10-foot wide multi-use path along the northern side of Pool Road, so it'd be across the street from the property. But the path would then be able to provide bike pedestrian connectivity from the Pool Road canoe launch and trailhead parking area over there all the way to this property. Just things to keep in mind. Here is the site suitability analysis for Pool Road. So it's broken down into kind of 3 categories: very limited, limited, and regular development. The area where that dry retention pond would be is going to be that area with that very limited development, not allowed to be able to do anything in there. Our limited development is defined on this site so far as where those creeks and stormwater channels are on site. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's to be super restricted, but just things to keep in mind. Also delineated on this is where that road widening is going to eventually cut into the property, so also to keep in mind. And then most of the site, 3.6 acres, is suitable for regular development, no significant or special limitations. Ready to go forward. And here is the interim management plan that's developed. So has some of our typical metrics that we prescribe: coordinated monitoring and mapping of the plant and wildlife species on site, kind of delving deep into more of an invasive species control. But then uniquely for this site, something that we should do is kind of evaluate the development potential, since it is such a small site. It's going to be extremely limited to develop it for a public park. I think that, it's less than 4 acres for the regular development. So it could be considered for limited park uses, something hopefully with more walk-to facilities, so we don't have to dedicate a large part of the property for parking. But we could also consider disposition of this property if we can't consider any viable park uses on the site because of the site constraints. And then our typical long-term goals is those additional ecological monitoring, protecting significant species on site, and some ecological restoration. And so I wanted to pause. This is where I wrap up with Pool Road. I don't know if you guys want to talk about Pool Road now, or if you'd like me to continue with Watkins Road and we can talk about both of them at the end. It's up to y'all. Oh, I think you're muted, Beverly.
Yeah, thank you. Why don't we go ahead and wrap up Watkins Road and then hold all our questions till we've heard both of them. I know at least one of my questions will be addressed in both of them. Thank you.
Great. All right. So moving forward, we've got Watkins Road. So Watkins Road is actually outside of our ETJ currently right now, all the way northeast of town. So there are more limited homeowner associations in the vicinity of here. There is an elementary school though, so definitely involving both of those in any park master planning would be important. And park access is a little bit more limited out this way. The closest park properties are undeveloped park properties at Hodges Mill Creek and Forestville Road property. This site also doesn't have any greenway trails or corridors proposed through the site. There's some corridors that run just north and just south of the property. So this property will not be affected by those plans. The site is substantially larger than last one. It's 38.22 acres. It's just one parcel. I do want to point out though, this site's a little intriguing because there is a single family lot to the north there that's kind of hugged on almost all sides by this property. So that's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward with any design. The site is mostly forested with that large northern part of the site cleared for agricultural use, which we currently lease out to a private contractor. The cleared fields span approximately 14 acres of the site. The rest of the site is forested, includes some creeks, not as many cool boulders, but I think there was like one. But still a really beautiful site. And so the main consideration for, there we go. The main consideration for this site will definitely be that agricultural field lease that happens on the northern part of the site. We've just renewed the lease term in October. That's a 6-year lease term. The lease allows for limited use of agricultural crops under an approved plan that's filed with the Wake Soil and Water Conservation District. There's definitely more information about this lease in the appendix if you want to look through the whole document. It's Appendix A. And I did just recently get my hands on the actual farm plan from Wake County. If anybody's interested, I can follow up and get that to y'all. This site does not have any areas prescribed for very limited development. It's pretty much just the limited and regular development. The limited is along those riparian buffers along creek beds, stormwater channels, some of the more hydric soils on site, just to be a little bit more cautious in development of those areas. But the majority of the site, almost 30 acres, is suitable for regular development. Then the interim management plan for Watkins Road, similar a little bit to Pool Road. We have that coordinated monitoring and mapping, the invasive species control. But one of the unique goals for this site is to help mitigate and prevent any of those negative impacts that may happen because of the agricultural practices happening on half the site. And again, those long-term goals are additional ecological monitoring, protecting significant species, and any ecological restoration that we can do. And so our next steps, like I said, next month I'm coming back with a couple more PDAPs for you. Leonard Tract and Sunnybrook Road. They're gonna, be a little bit more interesting than the two tonight. And then we'll be back again in the summer with a whole slew of new PDAPs for y'all's review. And yeah, I'll take any questions. Let me know if you want me to scroll back to any other of the slides, if you want to look at anything more closely, or if you prefer I close the slides, whatever.
Emma, thank you so much for the presentation. And yeah, I think you can go ahead and close the slide, and that way we can see when people have questions. I think the first question that comes to my mind is for both projects is, could you give us a little bit of history on how and when these properties were acquired, and if there were any restrictions associated with the acquisition?
So there is definitely some sections in the PDAPs that are more about the previous land use of the site. I think there's some details in there about when they were acquired, but I'll pull that up real quick. But neither of them had any restrictions associated with us acquiring them.
Were they gifted? Were they purchased?
Purchased.
Huh.
And I can pull up those dates for you if my computer will comply.
Beverly, these were two properties we bought with previous bond funds. So in our last two bonds, we've had land acquisition funds. So we're basically like Watkins Road's out there a little bit. It's like a land banking opportunity. But when we bought them, there was nothing. Now there's subdivisions within a mile. So.
Okay, that's helpful. Brad, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, just for the value of, Oscar's answering it. I just think maybe for the value of some of the board members who joined us more recently, something we had talked about in the last few years was having these come to us before any sort of process would be begun, so that we would sort of verify what process they were going to go through, whether it was just going to be sort of a very light informational process, or if it's going to be more of a master planning, sort of high level, very intense, almost consensus driven process. And so that we would sort of endorse that process about whether or not, just because we had the issue there was with Devereaux, it kind of just was on like a tangential track, and we were all like, no, that's kind of a big deal. We should be a much bigger deal. It sounds like from what I'm seeing that these processes are a little preliminary to that, but at some point when they get close to sort of heading into a more formal planning process, we'll see them from that perspective. Is that right? We'll get sort of a cool.
So the public participation pathway is defined in the situation assessment. So the PDAP kind of exists as an internal document to help us manage the site until we're ready to master plan. And then once we're ready to master plan, the consultant or in-house, they'll pick up the PDAP, use that to inform the situation assessment. And the main goal of the situation assessment is to identify that public participation pathway. And if it recommends that consensus seeking committee, that's the time too when interviews are conducted and those members are then recommended to city council as part of that situation assessment.
But I guess I'm trying to make sure that there's the intermediate step happens, where before we go to a master planning process or whatever the process is chosen, that it comes to us just to verify that, like, oh, this isn't a political hot potato that we're not aware of.
Yes, you'll see the situation assessment and get to weigh in on the pathway.
So
I'm just clarifying that for all those who will be here much longer than me now, that as these things come through, the goal is that we're not blindsided by something coming through and they're like, oh, we're doing this small little assessment, and we're all like, whoa, that's kind of politically sensitive. And we have to like restart, and that kind of happened with Devereaux a little bit. So we're just trying to avoid that in the future. So anyway, just clarify. Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Well, and to follow up on your point, Brad, and it seems like, is there, and this is a question, not a statement, is there a point where we can say, we really don't think that master planning this project is a great idea, and we think that, one of the things on the Pool Road that you identified was development potential. And, the city has funds for housing affordability, and we're looking at a road that's being widened to have to be a transit corridor. To me, I would say right now that is an issue of why wouldn't we start looking at that, the other city benefits. I mean, I like a park as much as anybody does, but that one in particular with the road widening and all of that seems like there's a flag waving.
Yes, and working with real estate office, the city's real estate office obviously knows these properties that are in our portfolio. So through discussions with our departments, if there is a need where it's identified as a possible affordable housing location, like you had mentioned, then we will be brought into that conversation. So it may entail possibly, a land swap with another vacant city property if that materializes. But they are aware of what's in our portfolio, and if there's a need to discuss the possible transfer to our department, then we'll start engaging with them. But yeah, we won't hastily move towards trying to master plan something without going through all of our steps of engagement, input, and making sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Any other questions? Well, I had one other one, and that was about the farm plan. And you said it's available in the appendix, and I will look at that. But urban farming is a urban organic farming, and rather than industrial agricultural farming is a real issue, and farmers finding farmland, and it would seem to more closely align with parks and recreation and even conservation corps things that we just heard about, opportunities for that to have some more narrow rails put on the farm plan rather than just typical North Carolina agriculture. And so, I mean, we may be seeing that in some other projects, given that we're buying property that's out there and undeveloped and often as farmland. So something, I'm not quite sure what my question is, but there seems to be some way that needs to be a little bit more front of mind before we enter into a 6-year lease.
I'll note that that's a 6-year lease with a local farmer. That's like 3 generations. So, and it's by far not, Watkins Road's by far not urban. So I would just make sure we align our terminology with making sure the context that the farmers that we're working with are multi-generation farmers of Wake County. So Scott worked on that agreement. So.
Okay.
I did just want to follow up real quick. I pulled up those dates, and it looks like we got both of those sites in 2003.
2003. It's been a while. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Emma, so much for your presentation and for updating us on those properties. And the next thing is Mine Creek Trail realignment. And I think, is it Lisa who will be with us for that?
Yes, that is me. And trying to figure out how to share my screen here. Why don't I see an option to do that?
You may need to move your cursor around, and that might bring it up.
No.
See the green button down at the bottom?
The green button. Oh, that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
You've done it before.
That big one right there.
There you go.
Okay, so. Okay, everyone see me or see my screen? Yes.
It's slowly coming.
There you go. Now you're set.
Okay, great. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Lisa Schiffbauer, and I manage the implementation of Greenway capital improvement projects. And I'm here tonight to share with you, for information purposes, a project that I don't know, some of you may recall or remember several attempts for a proposal that we had in 2009, and then again 2015. So I'm going to give you some, and it's a section of Mine Creek. I'm going to bring up a map here shortly, but objectives tonight. I'm going to provide a project overview and background of the project. I'm going to show you some project consideration and cost and the next steps. So this is a project location. It's just south of Shelley Lake. It's as soon as you go south of Shelley Lake and go under Millbrook Road, there's a section of Greenway that goes underneath. It's kind of like has a tunnel feel. And then you get to two structures that cross over Mine Creek, or one structure that crosses over Mine Creek and then back over. This is a zoomed in. The Shelley Lake is up at the top of the screen. It comes under Millbrook, under Shelley Road, and then the Ridgelock community here is on the north, and the Briarwood community is on the south. Just to orient you and to provide information, what's on this map. This green with the circles, that is a sewer line. The dark green is the line is existing trail. The brown line are structures, and we're going to talk specifically about these two structures. And the red line here is, we're going to talk about that later too, and a proposal for a realignment of the trail. And covers it. So replacement of these structures was proposed in the 2040 Parks Bond for a total of $210,000 for replacement. Obviously, construction cost and just cost of doing Greenway business has increased since that time. We're going to talk about a proposal to eliminate these two pedestrian structures and realign the trail to the west side of Mine Creek. So we considered this realignment in 2009. There was public engagement, which resulted in the decision to maintain the current alignment. And then that's how the replacement of the structures got placed in the 2014 Parks Bond. So in 2014, or wasn't quite in 2014, because as you know, our Parks Bond is spread throughout a 5-year CIP process. So, but it wasn't long after 2014 that we started planning. It was probably closer to 2015. We, staff, completed an analysis of realigning the structure, eliminating the structures and realigning the trail. We did an analysis of what the cost would be with replacing the structures and option 2, which is realigning. At that time, we learned of some future sewer improvements, and we wanted to wait for that analysis to be completed, since we didn't want to have construction, have a sewer project, and then have to tear up the Greenway system again. So we delayed that until now, and the Raleigh water construction planning team is moving forward with a sewer project. So it's really a great opportunity for parks to collaborate and plan these two projects together. So that is where we're at. These are some pictures of the structures and their condition. You can see that, you know, some of these structures are kind of held together by shimmies, and there's no threat or danger to users. Although, you know, this picture right here may not tend to lead to that, but you could just see that these structures are older, and they are scheduled to be replaced. This picture on the left is a picture of, so once you're coming south, let's just say on the Mine Creek Trail, you cross over one bridge and you're within a very green landscape area. You can see how close these trees are to the trail. There's site visibility issues here. The pavement is, you can't tell in this picture, but there are sections of this pavement that need to be repaired. And it's very challenging for our crews to come through here with equipment because these structures cannot handle the support and weight of the equipment needed to resurface the section of trail. So it's challenging. So this is a section, so the picture that we were just looking at, if you continued on this asphalt right here, you would cross the structure and then you would be like in the trees picture that I just showed you. And then you would come back around and you would pop out on the other side. This is a sewer easement here. This is the sewer project that I mentioned goes a pretty long length. It actually starts up by Shelley Lake and it continues down probably another half a mile from here. This is looking south, and the picture on the right is looking north up at the sewer easement. So option one, we looked at replacing structures. Here's some pros and cons. If we replace the structures, we're working in with existing Greenway easements. There's more distance between trail and residents. The cons to replacing those structures is just the construction costs. It's not going to be $210,000. It's estimated that the construction costs are approximately $1 million. Obviously, the $210,000 will not support that. A lot of other issues from a construction maintenance, access, tree removal, and just long-term maintenance of those structures and asphalt. Option two, which is realigning the trail, it eliminates those structures. The cost is approximately $200,000 to pave this. Ease of access for maintenance. There's no repair or future replacement of the structures. Less environmental impact. The cons, we would need to acquire easement along that sewer easement in order to locate the trail. And then the trail is closer to some residents nearby. So before I get into the closing comments and next step forward, staff has worked internally and discussed the best path forward and believe that the realignment of this trail is the best use of city funds, especially with the funds that are available to us right now. So that is the proposal to move forward with option two, which is realignment of the trail and eliminating the structures. So obviously we have some work to do from a engagement effort, especially with the adjacent property owners, since we have visited them in 2009 and then again in 2014 and 15. These are our next steps. we're going to continue to work with Raleigh Water and try to be in the backyards, with one project. But again, the community engagement is very important. And so we're going to engage with those communities. We're going to include efforts to address their previous concerns with safety. We'll provide some sketches that include fencing and landscaping to show how we can provide a buffer between the physical improvements and property, and plan to have those meetings in person, on the site, and virtually, and whatever we need to do to manage that. So that's it. Again, this is for information, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Members of the board, are there questions about this? Familiarity with this area? Do you need to look at the map again? Other comments?
Lisa, Beverly, to answer your question, yes, I'm very familiar with it because I run through there all the time. It is a cool little section, but I resonate with everything you said. The pavement's broken up, the visibility gets really tight right there, and you've got those two bridges which you can make go away. So the question is, of the 210 budgeted, if we get the realignment, which am I right in guessing you guys have probably approached homeowners before when they've got a sewer easement that's cleared like that? It's not that hard to get them to say, sure, a pretty greenway would look nice.
It's still challenging.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's still challenging. It's kind of the, people love the greenway. They like having access to it. They're just more comfortable having it further away.
Further away. Okay.
And so that's going to be challenging conversation. But we think it's the best path forward, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're gonna, the one different thing that we'll try to improve upon is what we can do to help buffer and screen, but also provide a sense of security. Because sometimes people look at screening as, it's not always a good thing. It's having visibility on a trail, for example, may be to someone's better interest than having it completely buffered and screened. But we'll work with the property owners. I think I don't know. I'm not sure what the turnover has been. I don't know if it's the same people living there. So it's definitely worth the investigation once again.
Yeah. So that 210 budgeted, if we do the realignment, do we have a sense for, is that 210 going to be close to enough to? Since we don't have to rebuild two bridges?
It's really a very short, it's less than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah.
So it should be enough to cover the cost of that. We do have some flexibility within our budget. Let's just say it ends up being $250. We have the flexibility to cover that difference.
Okay.
We don't have the flexibility to cover the $1 million.
Right. That's an astonishing number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bridges. So the bridges that we just bid on previous projects, I mean, they're coming back like at 350, 400,000 a piece.
Good gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christina, questions?
Yeah, just a clarifying question. That 210 that you said from the 2014 bond, is that already covered, or do we still need to get that 210,000 from somewhere else?
We have that available in the 2014 bond account.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else with questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question for Lisa.
So Lisa, what would happen to the two bridges if we decide to go with option B, which is to reroute on the other side?
We would demolish those bridges. As part of that, we would do a stream bank stabilization within those sections where we're removing the wing walls of the structures. So they would be demolished. There's no opportunity for relocation of those. There is a structure 31 that's just south of there, which isn't like a stick-built structure. It's more of it's one whole structure. We are working with Raleigh Water to try and relocate that at one of our parks. But those were two particular structures that I showed pictures of, they would be demolished.
Thank you. As a follow-up question, when we build a trail potentially on the other side, how would that work with the existing kind of sewer lines? Would the sewer lines be visible? Would they be running in parallel? Would we be doing any kind of changes to the sewer lines in order to kind of build out the trail?
So the sewer line project in that location, there's a lot of changes that are happening. The sewer lines are not visible. Of course, the manholes are visible, but the actual lines are not visible and will not be visible.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to say the manholes, right? So would the trail run parallel to where every so often we would see the manholes?
Yes, yes.
And that is consistent with the entire Mine Creek trail that in fact we've seen in a prior meeting. I don't know whether you were there, but there were the butterflies painted on the manholes, and those butterflies painted are actually on Mine Creek Trail. I encourage, and this, I'm thrilled with this prospect because the pavement is horrific along there. It's really dangerous pavement. And as you said, it's difficult to get equipment in there. And the bridges, they look much wider in your photographs than they feel when you're approaching them on a bicycle. They're sharp turns. They're very challenging. So I'd be glad to come and be part of your public outreach for why this is a better option.
One thing just to point out, that section that you're all familiar with where the pine trees are really close to the asphalt, let's just say we were proposing to replace that asphalt, replace the structures. That section would not look like it does today because the trees are what have caused the impact to the pavement, that buckled the pavement. So I know people are really fond of how that looks, but it's impossible to put it back like it looks today.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Marcia.
Yeah, does the stream, is there a serious erosion problem there? I looked at those from the photographs. I was thinking, gosh, that doesn't look like the bridges are very stable.
Yes, there is erosion. Not so much scouring where the structures are, but in between the structures, there's a section of pavement out there where the scouring is coming really close to the pavement. And it's kind of like the same situation that we had out near North Hills Drive, where we're kind of stuck between, private property and the stream bank and have very little room. So there's not much movement, there's not much availability to move the trail. So as part of that project, we'll remove as much pavement as possible without doing too much disruption to tree roots and that kind of thing. But we'll look at stabilization within that area to kind of bring it back to a more stabilized state.
So how is there a significant drop from the walkable land down to the stream bank? I mean, would it present a danger that somebody could trip or fall in the stream or anything like that?
Not currently, but perhaps over time, if the stream bank continued to erode, then yes, because there's actually a pipe that goes out where there's erosion. And it looks like that pipe was added to on at some point, and that section of pipe that was added onto has actually broken off. So there's clearly like, scouring happening, over time. It's slow, but it's happening.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Marcia. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you for giving us the update. What's your
Sure.
time frame for public engagement?
I'm going to wait till after Christmas.
Sounds good.
So January, February, and we're going to coordinate efforts with Raleigh Water. We don't want Raleigh Water. Raleigh Water needs easements as well from the property owner. So we want to make a coordinated effort to do a single approach rather than, coming in as two separate departments. So we'll coordinate that with them. But I'm thinking February, probably the earliest.
That's great. All right. Thank you very much, Lisa. And so we'll, Dr. Love, did you have some? No. We will move on to, well, we don't have minutes tonight, so we're not going to approve minutes, but on to Oscar and the director's report.
Yes, thank you, Beverly, and good evening, everyone. It's a fairly lengthy director's report. This month, there's been a lot of movements on budget amendments and transfers and license agreements and so forth. So I won't bore you with all of them. I'm just going to kind of touch base on some of the more high-level things that are maybe of more interest to you. As we just finished discussing Greenways with Lisa, on November 2nd, staff brought a budget amendment and transfer for the Neighborhood and Community Connections to Parks and Greenways proposal, which was approved by City Council. So we're going to be utilizing an amount of slightly over $2 million to support the design and construction of 5 different neighborhood and community connections within the city. And this will kind of help us with our 10-minute walk access to Parks and Greenways, and also helps us advance some of the recommendations from the upcoming draft Greenway Master Plan. So we're very excited about utilizing these dollars out of the Land Acquisition Fund to advance some park access equity or Greenway access equity within our system. Secondly, this past week, actually no, November 9th, time has been flying, the council had a work session where they wanted to have some additional information on some park bond projects, as well as some potential Dix Park phase funding options. So a combination of engineering services staff, budget staff, and myself gave council some information on a few follow-up project requests by some council members, as well as the information on potential funding options for advancing Dix and some potential timelines for Dix Park. So the only action item that came up out of that was council did approve to allocate $12 million from council reserves to advance site preparation work for Dix Park Play Plaza. So there will be some upcoming work out there at Dix Park to be able to advance initial site prep for phase 1 of the Play Plaza. And just a couple of additional reminders for you all. December 2nd at 1 p.m., we will be celebrating the dedication of the Past to Present exhibit at John Chavez Memorial Park. So if y'all have not received your invitation, please let Giovanna or myself know, and we will go ahead and resend that out for you. Very excited about that exhibit. Also, a reminder that the Nights of Lights at Dix Park is going to be held from November 26th to December 24th. Please reach out to Giovanna if you all want to go ahead and receive some tickets for that. she can go ahead and get you hooked up on that. And then lastly, I just want to make sure that you all did receive the email notification in the last day or two about the unfortunate incident that happened at Green Road Park. We still haven't received any additional new information from RPD on that. However, it is an ongoing investigation. So once again, at the point, there was no danger to staff or other park users at the site. It has been determined that it was a targeted crime. So the thoughts and prayers are with all those that were involved and their families, and we will continue to advance ways that we can provide additional safety measures at some of our park sites and facilities in coordination with Raleigh Police Department. And then lastly, next week is Thanksgiving, so I do want to wish you all and your families a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully y'all have a safe and enjoyable Thanksgiving. So that's it for the director's report. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I have one comment. Giovanni, could you send out a link to all the Parks Board members so we could see Oscar's presentation to council when in their work session? I tuned in a little late. It was they did ask a few things about a couple of parks, but I don't think they had a complete understanding of all the work that had gone into the public input on the bond proposals. But I think it'd be worthwhile for board members. It's only 30 minutes, so to take a look at that work session.
We can definitely look at sending the link. And also just, I believe their December 7th council meeting, there is going to be some additional discussion on the bond. And Jennifer has been invited. So she may also be able to speak to the board about the different engagement opportunities the board took during their last bond prep work. So hopefully that'll help address some of the questions about the public engagement aspect of the bond.
Right, great. Anybody else? Any questions? Great, thank you, Oscar. We know you're doing a great job and representing our interests. So
thank you. I think I saw Christina's hand up.
Yeah, Christina.
Hi, thank you so much. Oscar, as I was watching the presentation, I think the answer, the question was answered, but I just, again, wanted to clarify the 12 million that is going to be advanced for the bond. Will that be deducted from whatever they decide on that final bond package, or is this in addition to whatever they're going to allocate in the bond?
It can go either way. So council has not made a decision yet. So like you had mentioned, they may either be able to just deduct that off of the Dix package and either reallocate it to other potential park projects, or they may just go ahead and keep it on there to maybe advance future phases or other projects within Dix. So they'll continue deliberating that as they start looking at the rest of the proposed bond package for the upcoming election.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, the next thing on our agenda is committee reports, Parks Committee.
That's me. We met this month and we had a fantastic discussion, which we'll continue to have and then present to the board, I think in February, but it's about increasing usage fees for the pool across our system, and also for meeting rooms for those third parties that are renting those meeting rooms. I learned a lot. I was really, really appreciative of all of the information that staff brought to our session, and we have another discussion coming up this month. And I think January we talk again, and then we'll be presenting it to the full board in February for discussion and then voting. I really support, I mean, personally, this is not speaking on the parts of the Parks Committee, but I really support what they're doing. I think that they're putting such great intention behind understanding that there are some people that, we don't want to raise rates everywhere, especially for the pool, but after COVID and everybody wanted to go to the pools, we understand how important it is and how we need to help raise the salaries of our lifeguards and our staff so that we can continue to offer such amenities as the great pool system that we have. They, in this, I don't know if I'm not supposed to go into the detail, but it wasn't proposing increasing fees at this time on the youngest. So like my kids could still go, it's older. Anyway, I'm getting into too much detail. I really support it and I can't wait to bring it to the board so that we can have further discussion on it and hopefully send that to council by spring. So that was the first thing. And then our second thing is our big event that I hope we can really get going on. Last month I did a little bit of the park department speaking. This time we did a little bit of this event speaking. But what we want to continue talking about, my initial idea was having it like every community center every month, and realized that is way too much. And the newest proposal, which I think gained some traction, was doing it. We picked the 5 sites that we'd like to, 1 in each district, and then just rotating throughout the year, kind of making it a series, like the Parks Board series, and highlighting 1 community center every other month. And I really think that would help limit the amount of staff needed, and it would help us focus and really celebrate 1 community center at a time, so that the entire city can really look at 1 area of town instead of having to split their decision on where to go. So we're going to continue talking about that in December, and really what we want this event to be, so that we're highlighting our park system, our greenways, and welcoming old residents as well as newcomers that are coming to town, and showing them what Raleigh all has to offer them in regards to parks. So that is our update. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Christina, for that. And great to see Parks Committee functioning. The Fred Fletcher Volunteer Committee, I think most of you all got the email from Lindsay announcing that they've had been busy in their household with growing their family. But if you didn't see that, please put May 10th of next year on your calendar. That will be the Fred Fletcher Volunteer Awards. And it really is one of the most rewarding things that we get to do, and to be a part of honoring these people who do so much to volunteer in our park system. So have that. It's been 2 years of being virtual. It'll be exciting to be gathered again. Greenways Committee, we canceled this last meeting, and Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees. Marcia?
We met on Monday, and we had a very interesting program offered by staff about Taco Week, which is take a child outdoors and take a child outside. So it's a nationwide initiative, we learned, and our parks staff does a great job with setting up outdoor education things for families, as well as individual children, or just children's groups, I guess. And they talked about the ways our nature preserves are used, the educational opportunities for environmental enrichment at the nature preserves, and outdoor recreation. The staff is really comes up with great ideas all over the parks for nature enrichment, and how important they talked about how important it is for children and their parents to do these things together to build a sense of bonding and connecting, these shared activities. So that was very uplifting to hear about that program. And we also had a little bit of conversation about the invasive species removal project, and how to fund more people to help with that. That's a real concern to us. So we welcome other people to join us. We be in touch with me or with Giovanna if you're interested in serving on that committee. So thank you.
Great, Marcia. Thank you so much for your leadership there. And do we have a report on Deborah Meadows? Brad or Christina?
No, unless I missed something, Brad, but I have not heard anything.
As every time I drive by there, I wish something would happen. Brad, did you have?
No, I was just saying, same. It's a multifaceted problem. I think there's a meeting coming up in the next month or so. But I'm a little out of the loop.
All right. Well, we'll get you back in that. Committee reports, Arts Commission, Carol?
Although I was unable to, until able to attend the meeting on Tuesday night this week, I did find out that I did send in a little summary ahead of time saying that we were pretty positively responded to the idea of getting the citizen-initiated art programs, specifically the sewer riser ideas, a better, better publicity and promotion, and we're very interested in that. So they are aware that the board is interested, and there may become a time when we are working, perhaps I will be working with a member of the Arts Commission or the Public Art and Design Board, or both, to flesh out this cooperation a little bit. Apparently, this cooperation would involve the board contributing a couple of gallons of paint or supplies or some logistical support to the effort. And that's all I have to report for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. So I think Christina for BPAC, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board.
I do not have an update this month.
All right, it's getting dark early. It's harder to ride. The City of Raleigh Historic Cemeteries. Is that
No
you?
report.
Yeah.
Yep, no report this evening. They'll meet again in January.
All right, great. Dick's leadership, Jen's not here, so I don't think we have a report unless you do, Oscar. She didn't forward anything on to me. Historical Resources and Museum Advisory Board, that's also Jennifer. So, nope. All right. I just want to remind everybody about Nights of Lights at Dix Park. I think it opens this Friday. And the December 2nd dedication. I do have one question for Oscar that I think we talked about at the last meeting about Greenway encroachment, parallel to Allegheny. Is there any update on enforcement of that encroachment on the Greenway?
I am unaware if there has been any updates. Lisa or Sally, I think Lisa has her hand raised. Maybe she can provide us an update.
So the update that I have is it looks like the homeowner submitted a permit for that fence after the fact. They were probably told that that would be the next step, and as part of that permit review, our staff gets the opportunity to review those permits, which typically happens in a normal situation, right? And our comments to the applicant were that the fence needed to be relocated outside the easement. So I don't know how many days, that the permit will not get approved. So I don't really know the process or what happens after that, but it's a slow process, but I'll update you guys as I know more information.
All right, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's now painted and planted on the inside part. It's a fence that's 10 feet tall that is 10 inches from the Greenway. Not pretty.
Like that.
Yeah. It's really bad.
It's bad. Okay.
Is it normal for it to take this long of a to get resolution to the issue?
I think that part of it is that it is not in the parks department's purview, that it's the planning, it's the development and inspection services is the way I understand it, that they have the hammer, so to speak. And so they, as Lisa said, since they hadn't even applied for a permit, which would have been denied, obviously there was, in my working world, there were people who always sought forgiveness rather than permission, and that appears to be an example of that. And so it's just it's not really within the Parks Department purview, other than what Lisa has done so far. It's not pretty.
It's not.
Glad we agree. Anybody else? Anything else? Well, then, any other comments of board members? All right. Oh, Carol Love, I see your hand.
Yes, I'd like to say a few things. One, I say thank you to any of my former students and any of the staff who nominated me for becoming a member of the North Carolina Recreation and Park Association's Hall of Fame, which happened last month. So I was really pleased about that. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say that I am so pleased with the amount of use that Chavez Park is getting. Anytime I drive by there, the athletic field, the carousel house, the restored carousel, the community is really using that facility, and I'm very thankful for that. And get a lot of positive comments. Thank you, Oscar, for reminding us about the December 2nd, the interpretive piece being dedicated. I have a concern, though, with all the use that we have. I'm concerned about the maintenance or the custodial staff. I understand that has been contracted out. And I was there on yesterday. There's a female that has been assigned the duties for the cleaning and so forth. There were 3 people who showed up, but they said that this one woman has the responsibility. That's a huge operation. And she doesn't speak English. I spoke to her because I was there to attend the meeting. I spoke to her and I looked into her eyes. She didn't say anything. So I'm concerned that you've got a non-English speaking female to assume the responsibility for the cleanup and the setup for the many things that happen over there. So concerned about that. Is that true? Is she the only person that's been assigned cleaning up and setting up that facility for all of the activities?
I think Ken might be able to add a little bit, or maybe.
Yes, Dr. Love, we had a recent resignation from the custodian out at the park at that site. So Ken can provide us an update on where we're currently at with that service.
Dr. Love's great question. We did, Bryce, who we just hired over the summer when we opened things up, regrettably resigned rather abruptly. He's moving out of town. So we were able to quickly bring in a contractual service to kind of fill that gap. I can let you know that just Monday, we learned that we had the vacancy approved to begin the recruitment process. So we will begin filling that as quickly as we can. We may have the contractual service in there for potentially 2 months, but I can assure you that the contractual service isn't the only person who's responsible for helping and supporting up events. First and foremost is the work that the parks crew does, quite a bit of it on the outside, and then it's a combination of both our part-time and our full-time staff that help support that as well. So we're going to move as fast as we can to get the full-time employee back in there. But what we wanted to do is kind of plug the gap very quickly to bring in something to make sure the facility stayed clean and serviceable while we went through that process.
Okay, thank you for that information. I hope it'll be more than one person, because when I've been there on the weekends, almost every facility is filled with rentals. And I'm concerned that a maintenance person would not be able to have that building ready again for Monday morning with all of the things that are happening in all of those rooms over the weekend. But I trust that you'll get it taken care of.
Dr. Love, I'll offer that probably one of your graduate students, Kira Stewart, manages that for us. So we bring in our custodian from Wade Avenue, who also supports other spaces. So when the demand rises, we're able to kind of rally our custodial staff and support back in there. But David was huge when we were first getting open, and he's been plugging in to help carry the load as well.
Thank you very much. Wanted to make sure that it's not only clean, but sanitized. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Love.
Thank you, Dr. Love.
Well, thank you all to all of you for being here tonight. And Giovanni, do you?
Yes, you mentioned Nights of Lights, but if you get tickets from me, it does open this weekend, but the VIP tickets run from November 26th through the 24th. So if you get your own tickets, you're able to go starting Saturday, but please note that the VIP tickets that you get from me are from the 26th through the 24th. So please check your email with the information that I sent with all those dates and the dates that you are not able to go, and with the fun run and with the bike run. So all that information is within that email as well.
Thank you for updating that. And if you haven't contacted Giovanni, can the people still contact you if they're okay? Thank you. Everybody, next Thursday night, you will be, I hope, surrounded by family and friends and enjoying good tidings with a happy Thanksgiving. And so thank you for being here this evening, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
You.
Good to see you all. Good night.
Night.